Hello, everyone. Welcome to this immigration question and answer session offered by Carleton University's International Student Services Office. I'm Carolyn, one of the immigration advisors at the ISSO, and we're fortunate to be joined by my two colleagues, Laura and Sarah, and a support team from Carleton. We're here to answer your questions about getting a study permit and having a study permit in Canada, and we'll provide some information that may help with some of the confusion and disruption caused by COVID-19. I'm going to start with a presentation about some of the most common questions we get asked and my best answers. And then for the remainder of the session, we'll go to your questions. So first slide, please. One common question is, how do I apply for a study visa? Well, you're going to apply for a study permit. I'll explain about the visa in a minute. Once you get a letter, once you're offered admission to Carleton, you get a letter in your account that's called Student Information for a Study Permit. This is Carleton's version of a letter of acceptance. It has the information that the Government of Canada needs when you make your application for a study permit. You're going to go online at the Government of Canada's website, and there's an online application system. I should mention that I'll probably say IRCC a lot during this presentation. That's not a word. It's 4 letters standing for Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. That's the department of the Government of Canada that makes the rules about study permits and makes the decision on your application. So with your offer letter, the student information letter, you're going to go to your online account and apply online. It's the only way to apply at this time. I expect a lot of you have done this already. If you haven't, we have some information to get you started at the ISSO website, and we'll answer your questions today. Once your application is approved, you get a letter indicating that in your account with IRCC. That's all you get at this time. You don't get the study permit, just the letter. It's called a letter of introduction because you carry it with you when you travel to Canada. Now, if you also need a visa, then you will get instructions for submitting your passport so that the visa can be inserted into the passport. The visa is the document you need to travel to Canada. Now, depending on your country of nationality, you may not need a visa. You may need another travel document that's called an ETA for electronic travel authorization. That's really just a number that you get in an email. But you need one of those generally to travel to Canada. If you don't know which you need, that's not a problem at the time you apply for a study permit. When you apply for the study permit, either the ETA or the visa will be automatically processed as part of the same application. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is the, you see a picture of a visa. That's what will be put into your passport if you need one. Okay, next slide, please. Now we're getting a lot of questions. Students know that visa offices are closed and visa application centers are closed. They're asking, can we still apply? What's the point? Well, Canada is accepting and is processing study permits that are study permit applications that are submitted online. Now, there will be disruptions. You may not be able to get all the documents you need, but during the COVID-19 pandemic, IRCC is accepting incomplete applications. You apply with the documents you can get. You explain the documents that you cannot get immediately. IRCC won't reject or refuse your application. They'll keep it open and you can continue to add those documents as you receive them. Now, You may ask, when are they going to give me an answer? And we can't tell you that. No one can tell you that. So we'll, we just have to wait and see. Now, they have introduced this new approval in principle. That may help a lot in that if you can submit most of your documents, the ones, certainly your letter of acceptance, your proof that you have the financial means to study in Canada, and some more information about yourself to prove that you are a true student, maybe your study plan, then you may get approval in principle. And this can help you with your decision making. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get final approval, but at that point, they're just waiting for your biometrics and your medical, so you can have some confidence that you're going to be approved to study in Canada. Now I'm going to slip in frequently asked question 2.5. Can Carleton contact IRCC to tell them to hurry up? The answer to that is no. Every school in Canada who's expecting international students, and all of our prospective students are wanting the same service. We're all in the same situation. We just have to, you submit your application, you put it into the queue, and then you work through the process. Next slide, please. So what if the fall term starts and you don't have approval? Can you study at Carleton? Yes. You can enroll at Carleton. You can study online from your home country. You don't need to have a study permit. Now, that's a simple answer. I know that there will be follow-up questions to that. We'll get to those. One of the answers is that if you have the approval in principle, you, as I said, you can have some confidence that you will get final approval without having a guarantee. That may help you decide if you want to study online. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what should you know about traveling to Canada? We're going to assume for a short interval that it's normal times. So you have been approved for a study permit, you have your letter of introduction, and you have your visa or your ETA. So you carry these items with you in your travel, in your carry-on luggage, so that they're available to you. The officer at the port of entry will want to examine them. Your passport, your letter of introduction, your admission letter to Carleton, and if you're already enrolled for a current or upcoming term, you can get a Carleton document called a certificate of enrollment. That's available at your Carleton Central account. So when you're at the port of entry, you are examined by a border services officer who will ask you a few questions and will print out your study permit there. Now you're probably tired, you're maybe a little anxious, you're maybe a little nervous, but it's a good idea to take a moment to look over the study permit while you're there. Look for any errors, because sometimes they happen. You know, your name could be incorrect or any other information might be incorrect. And there are remarks and comments on the permit. If you don't understand any of them, that's a good time to ask. Otherwise, you can come to the ISSO later, but it's usually best to clear it up with the officer. If you ask politely, you'll get a nice answer. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now it is a pandemic and you need to know a little bit more about traveling. Most people who aren't Canadians can't travel at this time. If they do, you should be, you know that even if you are healthy, you're subject to health checks along the way. You should have a mask when you arrive in Canada and are traveling through Canada. And you must have a detailed 14-day quarantine plan. This is mandatory for everyone. And the Border Services Officer will ask you about it. So you must have a plan about how you're going to isolate yourself and get the things you need during that 14-day period. So they will examine the details of that, and you might be subject to a follow-up check. There are penalties if you don't maintain your quarantine for 14 days. Okay, next slide, please. The big question, when can I come to Canada? Unknown. Don't make travel plans yet. Right now, anyone who's applying for a study permit this summer may not come to Canada. You don't fall under one of the exemptions. Now, these exemptions are, these travel restrictions are, as they are currently in place until July 31st. Then we'll see, but realistically, we don't expect to see big changes. But we'll have more Q&As throughout August. You can learn about those at the ISSO webpage events page, and you can contact us. You can follow our FAQ page as well. We'll provide all the updates as we learn them. Next slide, please. What if you can't come? Well, I've already said that you can study online with or without a study permit. Now, all Carleton students will be studying online in fall 2020, even if they're in Canada. So you're joining them in this unique and memorable experience. You know, COVID-19 seems to be a pretty smart virus. We have to be smarter if we're going to beat it. And one of our best ways to do that right now is to socially isolate. Now, we know that online studies might not work for you for a number of reasons. You might want to try it out. And if you're going to do a trial, you should know about Carleton's payment schedules and refund policies. You can try it out and you can get some of your tuition back or all of your tuition back by September 30th. You might also look into a deferral option. If you're an undergraduate, you may be able to get deferral to a winter or summer term next year. That depends on your program. With some programs, you have to wait a full year if you go to the deferral. If you want to learn about that, you can apply for the deferral through the Carleton website. We'll give you a link for that. Next slide, please. Now, a lot of international students choose to study in Canada. They know about the post-graduation work permit program. That's an IRCC program, not a Carleton program, but I can tell you a few of the rules. If you come to Canada and study full-time for at least 2 years, then you may be eligible for a 3-year work permit. That allows you to stay in Canada after you finish your studies and maybe get some work experience in Canada. Now, normally, when you study online from outside of Canada, that doesn't give you any credit towards those 2 years. But there's a special rule, it's a temporary rule for fall 2020. As long as you have a study permit, or in your case, have applied for a study permit by September 15th, your study online from home during fall 2020 will be credited towards your post-graduation work permit. So that's a nice bit of news we've had from IRCC just in this past week. We're pleased to be able to share that with you. Next slide, please. Okay, this is actually Carolyn's question. This is my question, because I want you to know the answer. So we're imagining at some happy future time, you're in Canada, you have your study permit. It will have an expiry date on it. It will say that you can stay in Canada, you can study up until that date. If you're not finished your studies by that time, it's quite possible to apply for an extension. You can stay in Canada, continue studying, but you must act before the expiry date. And the ISSO can help you with the application, but only if you come to us before the expiry date. The other thing you need to know is that your study permit is good. It's valid only as long as you're still in school. For the most part, international students are not free to take a break just to relax or to work. If you find yourself in a situation where you want or need to take a break, please come to the ISSO and we'll discuss your options. Next slide, please. Can I work in Canada while I study? Many international students at Carleton are allowed to do some part-time work, allows them to make some extra money, allows them to get Canadian work experience. There are a lot of rules about who can work and how much they can work. I'm not going to explain all of those right now. They're on our website. We'll have information sessions once the fall term starts. You can attend one of those. For now, I'm just going to say that any work authorization you have relies on your being a full-time student. When you come to Canada with a study permit, you're first and foremost a student. So no study, no work. So this concludes what I wanted to tell you. I'm going to go off camera and off mic, but I'll be seeing your questions in the Q&A. Thanks for your attention.